Hey YouTube, it's mysmilewow, and I'm back with a tag video. I know in my last tag video I said I was done with these tag question videos, but I watched a video from Bronze Goddess 01, and she tagged everybody to do it if you wanted to do it. And I thought the questions were interesting, so I'm doing it now. And it's called the first time tag. So the first question is, do you still talk to your first love? I do not talk to my first love. The last contact I had with him was probably 2 years ago on Facebook. I had a friend on there we went to the same high school. So there was a girl that I was friends with, and I noticed he was friends with her, and I'm like, oh wow, I haven't seen him in so long. So I clicked on him, sent him a quick message. Hey, how you doing? How's life treating you, or what have you? We talked a little bit, and he's like, I'm married with kids, and you? I'm like, single, no kids. The moment I heard that he was married with kids, I was like, all right, nice talking to you, have a nice life. So that was the last time I spoke to him. Not even spoke, emailed or whatever. What was your first alcoholic drink? My first alcoholic drink was vodka and Kool-Aid. My mom and her long-term boyfriend at the time went out, and he kept like gallons of vodka in the bottom of the china cabinet. So being the nosy teenager, I guess it was supposed to be a secret stash, but I knew it was there. So went in, pulled out a bottle. I was smart enough to pull out the one that had already been used or opened, and got some Kool-Aid, poured it in, tasted it, and I'm like, that's really nasty. So let me try it with some Coca-Cola. So I get the Coca-Cola out, pour it in that, taste it. I'm like, that's even nastier than the first. So that was my first alcoholic drink. And I do not drink today, so I'm not an alcoholic. Don't worry about that. So what was my first job? My first under-the-table paying job was babysitting. I would babysit clients that would come to my mom's job, that would come out of town for like conferences, and the husband would bring the wife and the kid, and I would end up like watching the children while they went to conferences and stuff. Most of the time it was like during the summer. But my officially first job was selling the Boston Globe in Government Center. If it was too hot, I didn't even show up for work. What was my first car? My first car was a white Infiniti Q45. And I bought that car because the boyfriend that I had at the time said one of his boys had this extra car that was just sitting there, and he wanted to make some extra money on it. So I bought it for $2,400. I drove the car one time for like 5 minutes because I was so uncomfortable at that time driving. So my thug of a boyfriend would drive it all over Boston, and I was like, you know what? I need to get this car out of my hands. So we ended up selling it to another friend of his for $3,600. So I ended up making a little bit of a profit on that. Who was the first person to text you today? I did not receive any text messages today. Who was the first person you thought of this morning? First person I thought of this morning was one of my friends growing up. We're no longer friends now, but we have a mutual friend. And that mutual friend told me that her brother passed away. So the first person I thought about this morning was their mom and how she must be feeling. Who was your first grade teacher? My first grade teacher was Miss Simpson at the Blackstone School. That woman was mean, nasty, stern. You did not play around in her classroom. You didn't blink, breathe, move, talk, write, unless she gave you specific instructions to do so. That woman, and that was like in the 70s, so that was a time where teachers would like hit kids, and you were like too afraid to say anything. I remember one time she went up to this little boy, and she took her fist and she pounded on the top of his head because he wrote something incorrectly. And from that day on, everybody was just like, just don't breathe, don't do anything. I don't even think I told my mom about that because I was so scared of that lady. Where did you go on your first ride on an airplane? My first ride on an airplane was from Mobile, Alabama to Boston when we moved from Mobile to Boston. And Mama, why did you make me move here? I don't like this state. So that was my first plane ride, and I was about 7 years old. Who was the first best friend? Who was your first best friend, and do you still talk? My first best friend, her name is Janina, and we do talk occasionally. Last time I spoke to her was actually June. I called her to wish her a happy birthday. But we can go like a year and not speak, and then get on the phone and talk like we just spoke 2 days ago. So that's a long time, actually. We met in 3rd grade. So we've been friends ever since then. Where was your first sleepover? My first sleepover was at my house. Since growing up, I was an only child for like the longest time until my brother came along. But we lived in an apartment, and it was a pretty big apartment. And I was one of those kids. I wasn't spoiled, but I had a lot of stuff. And a lot of my friends would all come to my house, hang out at my house, after school, my house. So I had a lot of sleepovers at my house because there was more room. There was often, my mom's long-term boyfriend, he was there off and on, but a lot of times he wasn't there. So it was more like a safer place for the girls to come and spend the night and stuff. Who was the first person you talked to today? Who was the first person I talked to today? My mom. My mom called me actually when I got to work, and when I talked to her for a little bit. Whose wedding were you in the first time? First wedding I was in was my god sister's. I was a bridesmaid, and I called it a Hollywood wedding because she had like 4,000 bridesmaids. Friends from a long time, new friends, friends from her job, friends from here, friends from there. There was a million bridesmaids in that wedding. What was the first thing you did this morning? I got up and stretched because my foot was hurting. What was the first concert you ever went to? My first concert was New Edition. I was in high school. I think I was in 10th grade. But New Edition was actually my first and only concert. I had so much fun at that concert. And then we all had to go. I seen a lot of people from school, and we still had school the next day. So New Edition was my first concert. And I loved them forever. First broken bone. My first broken bone was my pinky toe. I got these retarded feet. So when I walk, my feet don't place this way. My feet kind of swing around like that when I walk. So we had this long hallway where we lived, and I would run, my room was in the back, and I would run to the front to answer the door whenever the doorbell rang. So I was running up the hallway, caught my foot on the edge of a corner because it wasn't a straight shot. The hallway kind of turned, and I broke my pinky toe. My first piercing, I was probably, I don't remember it. I was young. I probably was under a year old, and the next door neighbor to my great grandmother pierced my ears. My mom said they took a needle, lit it, and then put an ice cube on my ear, pierced it through, took a cornwist broom, burned the ends, put Vaseline on it, and then stuck them in my ear as starter earrings. So that's what they did, I guess, in the South. When you were Po. We was Po. First foreign country you've gone to. I have not been to any foreign country. I would love to go to Greece, and I would love to go to Italy. I want to go to Greece because my name is of Greek origin, and that's enough reason for me to want to go there. First movie you remember seeing? My first movie I remember seeing was Bustin' Loose. I was probably 6 or 7. No, maybe 7 or 8 when that movie came out. And I went with my mom's boyfriend at the time. I wanted him to be my dad so bad. He was hilarious. He was funny. He paid attention to me. And he told me one day he was going to take me out. And I was all excited. And he took me to that movie, Busting Loose, starring Richard Pryor. So you know there was a lot of foul language in it. I don't really remember too much about the movie. I do remember that I did fall asleep during half of it. That's funny, though. When was your first detention? My first detention was in high school. It was because we had a substitute teacher, and my boyfriend showed up at class at the door and kind of like waved because he knew I had a substitute teacher. And this is the same person, my first love. So he waved, and I was like, I'm leaving. So I got up. I asked the substitute teacher for a pass to the bathroom. He gave me a pass to the bathroom, and the class was going wild at that point. People were throwing stuff. It was crazy. So I left. So we went to get lunch. You're not supposed to leave the property, but we left. We went to get lunch. We came back. We were at the gym hanging out, and I made a joke and said, someone wrote your phone number on the girls' bathroom really big. So he dipped in there to see if I was telling the truth or not. Just as the female gym teacher passes by and she saw him dip in, she was like, he was hiding from her because we wasn't supposed to be there. So she called the dean of discipline. The dean of discipline bust into the lunchroom and was like, you out here. It seemed like everybody just froze and looked at us, and I was like, what did they like? Why is she calling us out? Like, I'm not a bad student. So we go outside, and she was in my face like, I know you don't want me to call your mother, and I know you don't want me to call your father. And we're just like, what happened? Then we found out, they said that you did this, did that, blah, 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 blah. He was like, that's not true. She said someone wrote my name on the wall in the bathroom. And they was like, yeah, sure she did. So I got 3 days detention for that. Now, the story I told my mom was the class was rowdy. So I left because I didn't want to get in trouble. And I went to the gym. And the gym teacher saw me and wrote me up. Yeah, that was my version of the story. But I got to stay home. I got to stay home for 3 days with no worries. Who was your first roommate? I've never really had a roommate. I did stay with one of my good friends for a while and her family. But I didn't consider that a roommate because that was her house. So other than that, I've never had a roommate. If you had one wish, what would it be? One wish. It would be to have everything that I need and more, I guess. What is something you would learn if you had a chance? I would learn a foreign language. I would learn Chinese. I would learn Spanish. And I think just those two. Actually, no, I would learn Greek since my name is Greek. Yeah, so I would learn those 3 languages. I speak absolutely no second language. I know to say words here and there. Other than that, I don't speak any other languages. So I would love the chance to do that. And the last question is, what were the first lessons you ever took? If you count being in elementary school, we have, like, they make you take music class. I took recorder lessons, but I think that was just mandatory for everybody. Other than that, I have not taken any classes. I haven't taken any lessons on anything. Yeah, we didn't have much money growing up, so my mom was like, do whatever, but I can't afford to send you to no ballet class or no dance class or no this or no that. Sometimes I think if I did go to those classes that I would not be as shy, but it is what it is. So if I could take a lesson now, I would take everything. I would take everything. Now, the problem is I'm older, so retaining the information might be a problem. But yeah, so that is the first time tag. And I tag everybody who wants to do it. All right, later.